You're now tuned in to Hough Nation Sports. Buckle up. What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of Hough Nation Sports podcast here, found on YouTube and hopefully other places in the future, where we talk about legends of the game in the Carolinas, and eventually nationwide. We talk about high school athletics with a great interest. We talk about high school coaches, players, and in this case, some very, very experienced and professional and talented reporters / announcers of high school sports here in South Carolina. With the 2026 season upon us, we welcome Thomas Alonzo. Thomas Grant is his name when you call it your social media name. Thomas Grant is with us, a longtime veteran. He'll introduce himself in his own way. Tyler Cupp is with me, and Chris Deering, and we're here from those guys. Of course, I'm Stacey Huff. Glad to have you with us. You're here from our sponsors at our intermission point, halfway between that make it all possible. Make sure you support those folks out there as we try to uplift the sporting culture here in the Midlands of South Carolina and the state and beyond. So again, Thomas Grant, if you would, please introduce yourself in your own way, sir, and tell the folks your interest in this particular season and how you're covering it.
Well, being in the Midlands, Thomas Grant, been covering the Midlands for almost 30 years now, started back in Orangeburg, and then the last 10 years really in Lexington and Richland County. For the most part, that's put me in focus when it comes to teams like Dutch Fork, Irmo, Lexington, River Bluff. So I've really gone through the work really the last few years. And so writing for the Irmo News. Also now you can catch some articles on high school at SI, on SI as well, during the regular season. So when you're looking at, of course, when you talk about Midlands, it's always going to first start off with Dutch Fork, with what they have going on, and the top, basically, sort of the history they have a chance to do.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
So,
yeah, that's one thing Thomas has on his mind. So we'll go to Tyler Cupp. Tyler, who you represent and your interest in this season, and maybe a topic that's on your mind as we head into the beginning of the season. Then we're going to break down the 5 classifications.
Tyler Cupp. Huff, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. Appreciate seeing all my media brethren, CD, Chris Deering, and Thomas. Good to see the boys, and good to see you, of course, Huffster. And listen, I am from Kershaw County, started my career with PUB in the Camden area, was the voice of Lugoff Elgin for many years. I think I'm year 27 covering high school sports. I'm currently in the Rock Hill area, Football City, USA. And up here, we've got 6 stations, and we have the ability to cover not just York County, so the Fort Mill schools, York, and the 3 Rock Hill schools, but also Clover and now Lake Wylie, Lancaster County with Indian Land and Lancaster and Beaufort and AJ, and then, of course, Chester County. We give them some love, too, with Chester, Louisville, and Great Falls. And super excited about this year. My storyline, I think, this year are the defending champions. I think we have a very good shot at seeing a lot of the defending champs do it again. I think a lot of what these guys are bringing back, one of the most decorated quarterbacks in the state of South Carolina in quite some time, the kid down in Oceanside, Aiden Manavian, just committed to Davidson. You got Northwestern, who reloaded with their quarterback and Xavier Means. You got Dutch Fork, who brings back a stingy defense and their quarterback. Strom Thurmond, one of the best stories in the state of South Carolina last year. Yep. They bring back a lot of guys. So I think there's a great shot we could have a couple of repeat champions this year.
I'm looking forward to it. I think so as well, man. And a couple of them are repeat. Some of them on some historic type runs. Some of these names you call. Chris Deering, my guy, a long time broadcaster here in the area. Chris Deering, introduce yourself in your own way, sir, and your interest and thoughts on this season on a broad term.
Well, thank you again, Stacey, for having me. It's always a pleasure, my friend, to join you and to get on camera with Thomas and Teacup. So always glad to be here. I'm entering my 38th year, so you saved the old man for last. It's been a fun ride. I keep saying I'm a hanging up, but man, I just, the juices get flowing and you get that football feel in the air. I got out to see a scrimmage last night, so it's here. It's time to get the popping. And, I hate to piggyback off what Tyler just said, but man, we, there's, I want to see who's going to challenge the champions, who's going to be the top challengers, because I do think going into the season, the defending state champs have the inside track to repeat.
Yeah.
We released a Prep Writers poll yesterday. Don't really remember how the overall poll came out, but I know how I voted, and I had the defending champs number one or number two, and I think we could see a lot of that across the board. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to challenge those teams. This is unusual, but man, with the way 1A is set up this year with all the teams, and they can split that classification. I know we'll get to that in a little bit, but that was the hardest one for me to vote in, because what I did is I went through each classification and wrote down teams that I thought were worthy of being ranked, and I had about 20 teams in Class A, and I had to whittle that down to 10. So it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out. But looking forward to it. We got a lot going on at Prep Red Zone SC, and content rolling out every day. And I think we do a really good job of what we do. And I think we have 8 guys out in the field on Friday night. This coming Friday night.
A little small army out there covering. I love it. So now, of course, I'm Stacey Huff, the host here, and we'll be covering the games on March Fox 57. We unveiled our schedule last week, which, by the way, I had no part in making the schedule. It turns out to have been a pretty good one anyway, but it was kind of announced to me a couple of weeks before it was announced to everyone else. But it's going to be some good matchups there, some of the teams that we're going to talk about. So I'll be covering it there on Friday nights with my guy Joe Cashin and Claire Foley, the award-winning Claire Foley on the sidelines. And I'll also be covering it here, doing some weekly stuff here after each game and leading up to each game here on YouTube as well and other platforms. So that said, let's get right to it, folks, if you would, please and thank you. 5A, we began with 5A, and I, for many years, and some don't like it, and I start off last year, I think I said it to you guys last year, maybe the year before, I end every season usually talking about the Dutch Fork Invitational, and some people don't like me saying it on the air, and I was like, all you gotta do is beat them. That's, I'll stop saying it. I promise you, if they're not in that game, I won't say it. If they're in the game, though, I'm probably going to say it, right? So we'll start in the same order we been going in, because I'm not smart enough to mix it up any other way with equality. So I'm going to start in the same order. Thomas is on my upper left on my screen, the way I view it here. We'll start with Thomas. Thomas, 5A. I'm going to ask you guys in each category, give me 2 or 3 teams that we know are the favorites, and one team that maybe isn't talked about enough that's not in that 2 or 3 you mentioned. Give me another. So Thomas, 5A, we know Dutch Fork Northwestern at the top. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that one out. Yeah. So now we got who else though?
I mean, once you go past those 2, I mean, you sort of look at the usual suspects. I mean, you talk about teams like Burns and Dorman out of the upstate. You also have a sort of close by, really up 77. You have teams like Rock Hill, who've been making up quite a bit of noise in terms of what they can do. I know Tyler can talk a lot about that in particular. Yeah. And especially when it comes to a particular matchup that's going to be happening, I guess, to open the season here in Irmo when they play the Yellow Jackets.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. So you look at that. I mean, you look at Dutch Fork. I mean, the question you have is just, where would you see the weaknesses? Where could things get stepped up? I mean, I guess you had a concern about their secondary, which was an area of concern early in the season, but then that became one of the strongest areas towards the end of the season, mostly because of a guy named Kareem Dupree. And he's doing the same thing really in the preseason. He had a couple of pick sixes last night against Malik Creek. The concern on that other side is the fact that you have also, they lost one of their top emerging freshmen, Tadrick Gibson, to an injury there in the season. But knowing Dutch Fork, they'll find a way to fill it out. But I'd be interested to see their defensive coordinator is a sort of a familiar name, a former Gamecock, Greg Wright. He's now going to be calling the plays. And if you look at, and the thing is, he's facing a situation where you look at the last two guys who were defensive coordinators. I mean, you saw what they did. They ended up being state champions back to back. You had Scott Braswell most recently, and then before that, of course, Nick Pelham. So whether they can keep that up, and then you have the transfers that happen. They picked up a couple of kids from AC floor on the defensive line and offensive line, not to go with also the guys they have coming in. It's sort of hard to see what teams are going to sort of compete with them. Although another interesting matchup is going to be on the season opener, which is also the inaugural Bojangles Ridgeview Classic when they go to Ridgeview.
Yeah.
Of course, you were there. Actually, it was in Blackwood. They played in 2015, that infamous game that took place after the flood.
I was there. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how that happens because you have quite a few guys who have signed with colleges. So right now, I mean, basically until things change, I mean, you really have to just look at what's going to happen once the playoffs and the brackets are released. But then one thing you also have to keep an eye on all year long, you're going to hear these three initials all year long, RPI. Whichever the teams that have the better RPI has the better advantage when it comes to being able to host their playoff games, which gives them, of course, an advantage going forward.
All right. Hey, I'm gonna stop you there. I'm gonna go to Tyler, and I'm gonna make a comment about what you said. Then we'll go to Tyler, then Chris. But I remember that game. It was after the big flood. I remember the big flood of 2015. The reason I remember that was my daughter's senior year, and people always talk about me being at Ridgeview, but of course both my kids went there, so I had to be there. My daughter wanted to go to the game her senior year, right? She said, I got to go to all the games, but Dad dropped me off. Don't you stay? So if anybody has a daughter, Chris, you probably identified. She went, but I want to stay. I was like, it's Dutch Fork and Ridgeview. Dad, I'm going to stay at the game. She was like, okay, but don't make a scene. No, be there, but nobody needs to know you're there. So that's why I remember that game. And I didn't go to see Ridgeview win. I thought it was going to be a bloodbath. I thought it was going to be a massacre. And it was a muddy field. It was still soaking wet. And Perry Parks and those guys got it done. But that's why I remember that game. But it was after that big flood came through Columbia. Tyler Cupp, 5A. We already know Dutch Fork, Northwestern. Who else is on your mind?
A couple of things. You mentioned Rock Hill. I will cover a majority of the Bearcats season this year. Rock Hill is coming to WC Hawkins to take on Aaron Bray and Uramo Yellow Jackets. I'll be there. Listen, I think pound for pound, Rock Hill has one of the best sets of wide receivers / DBs. They're going to play them both ways. Miles JoJo Brooks, Nigel Leitner, Caden Watkins just got to go ahead through the transfer portal. He is good to go for the whole season. Pound for pound in terms of their depth, they're as good as anybody in Class 5A on both sides of the ball, wideouts and DBs. Now, quarterback, need a little better play from Jonah Young. Offensive line did get better. Rock Hill is a team to watch. But let's talk about the power teams. Is anybody else interested to see what Drew Marlowe, the prodigal son, returns coming to Sumter? What's going to happen there? Did he work his way through the transfer portal? Did some kids come from South Florence? Maybe. We'll see. I'm hearing good things out of Spartanburg. Yeah. I'm hearing good things out of Ridgeview. You got Howard, the young man who was knocked out halfway through the season. He's back for his senior year. Looking forward to seeing him with a full bill of health. And here's a storyline to watch that I am concerned about, and that is Gray Collegiate playing in Class 5A. Last year, from my understanding, they only had about 34 or 35 kids, and now they're playing in 5A classification. I get it. The multiplier works on paper for a lot of teams, but I'm very curious to see how they transition to 5A. They're in the top 10 in the rankings, but that's a very tough schedule. Very curious to see how that plays out. But yeah, a lot of interesting teams there. And I'll say this, Burns, I saw them in the third round of the playoffs last year. Trey Segarra was one of my favorite players to see all last year, having a senior season. Burns was strong on the defensive end. Watch out for the Rebs. Could be a big year for the Rebs.
It's always a good thing when Burns' name pops out. It always seems to be a historic year when Burns is in the scene. But two thoughts on what you said. So you're right. Sumter is going to be big. We do have them on the Watch Fox schedule this year. Sumter at Dutch Fork. That night will be a night that the state will be watching Dutch Fork. It's always one or two games a year that everybody's watching over there like, could Dutch Fork get clipped? That'll be one. People might get the the haters would be a little bit excited that night.
Well, maybe not.
He did do well in the portal, I do believe, over in Sumter. And you talked about Gray Collegiate. Game that we worked, that was tentatively on our schedule, didn't work out, some logistic things, but Gray Collegiate at Ridgeview, October 23rd. and then the same region. That could be one. That could be one that the state is paying attention to. Depends on how great, but they only have about 30 players. You're right. Depth could be a problem. They got 3 or 4 all Midlands players on the roster, but what's behind them could be interesting to see. So shout out to the schedule makers. We'll see. Get out the bat. Week 1, Rock Hill and Irma, a lot of trash already being talked. We go to our third distinguished panelist here, Chris Deering. We know Northwestern, we know Dutch Fork. Anybody else, and your thoughts on those 2 teams as well?
So I'm gonna give 2 teams that have not been mentioned yet, because I'm fond of the low country teams.
I know you are.
I'm gonna go with Somerville and Berkeley. Somerville's been right there on the doorstep the last 2 years. Couldn't knock off Dutch Fork. Different. They played the transfer portal well. I know they had a scrimmage last week. Did not fare very well. It was against one of the powerhouse teams from out of state, but I think that Somerville team will be right there when it gets all said and done towards the end. And then Berkeley has got a 4-year starter at quarterback in Henry Rivers. He's committed to College of Charleston for baseball, but he is a talented kid. Stacy, they took it to Ridgeview last Friday. I
was going to ask what happened in the scrimmage. I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah, I know what I think Ridgeview's facing is that offense could be really good. But I think they got some holes on defense that they got to find a way to fill some holes there. And Rivers, like I said, a 4-year starter quarterback, he was able to take advantage of it. Berkeley's got skilled people. They always seem to find good skilled people. They're starting 2 freshmen on defense. And, at the 5A level, that's a pretty big deal. So we'll see how they can fare defensively as well. But they think they have a good team. We'll see what happens. They probably could play Carolina Forest for that region title in the new region. But Thomas, I'm gonna give you a little bit of credit. I know Aaron Brand set you up to ask that question last week about the Rock Hill transfer portal. I know it. I know it in my heart.
Sounds about right.
That's going to be a fun game next Friday night at WC Hawkins. I am curious to see what Rock Hill has. They apparently played the portal well.
They did.
I don't know much about Rock Hill as Tyler does. Probably don't know as much about it as Thomas does, but I know they're going to be really good. I had them at number 7 in my poll, so I think they're right there on the doorstep. But who can knock off Dutch Fork? Coming into the season, I thought Northwestern had the best chance.
Yeah.
But after seeing some things and reading some stuff that I've seen, there might be 2 or 3 teams that have a chance. Burns, I think Dorman's could be right there. They're loaded. Another team from the Low Country we haven't mentioned, James Island. They're really good. So looking forward to seeing what all those teams can do. So I pretty much have given you my top 10 from what I voted in the poll. But looking forward to it. But I think, it's Dutch Fork and who can knock them off at this point.
A name I threw out before we go to 4A, Victor Floyd, who I got to talk to at our media days at White Knoll. We know his talent at White Knoll. And I told him, I could just tell by him, he's like, as they used to say on game day, just kind of creeping around. He wants to come in like a lamb, out like a lion. I think next year is what he's building for. He has a lot of juniors on this White Knoll team.
He does, yeah.
A lot of juniors. And Victor Floyd wins everywhere he goes.
Hey, here's a prediction for White Knoll. They will be one of the most disciplined teams in the entire Midlands. That's what he brings to White Knoll. That's what he did at Chester. We call him the Godfather up here because he's one of the most well-respected coaches in the state.
Great guy. I got it. That's the first time I really got the dialogue with him. I've been around him a little bit and because he started Columbia many years ago. He might have been at C.A. Johnson somewhere, but we never really. But at the media day, we stood there and talked, man, and you sense that on him. And I think this first year, he's looking to make sure his stamp on it and put that discipline there. But he has some talented 10th and 11th graders he's very excited about. So I tell you, I don't know about this year, but they may steal a couple of games this year. But I think this time next year, White Knoll might be a team that's going to be, a lot more.
You might see a little wing T in Red Bank to this year, Stacey.
Yeah, he will roll up the sleeves, right? Just get physical with it.
Well, you probably have to because his quarterback, the quarterback who was there last year, McKeever, he's now at Gray Collegiate.
Yeah.
So now it'd be interesting to see who's going to be filling up that spot.
Yeah, I was telling I was one of y'all was talking about, might have been Tyler. The starting quarterback at White No now is the grandson of a buddy of mine, so I feel really old now. I was actually, yeah, Chris. You know, me and Chris about the same age. I was at Imart Express a couple last week and 2 weeks ago, and buddy came up to me and said, "Man, you still doing the high school games on TV, right?" He said, "My grandson." And White No, look out for him. I'm like, "What now?" Man, I think I got an ache. I think I got a hip ache just by him saying that. I feel like we're old.
Well, Stacy, you are holding that golf club like
a cane.
Yeah, like a cane, like Yoda's got. You know, your picture trash. They are.
I have a leaning post. Look, I fit the bill, like my little Moses thing going on. But, look, so I guess hey, it is what it is.
The force is strong with this one, Stacy.
Yes. Say what? What is strong?
The force is strong with this one.
Strong, yes, it is. So we mentioned Aaron Brand. We got to go to 4A, and he's actually going to be a guest on this very same podcast a week from now. And I'm interested what his mood is going to be, because I know he gets his game face ready right about this time, and he really seems he didn't mind talking about Rock Hill. So let's go. We'll start with Thomas again and go 4A, and we know Irmo's right there at the top of things, where, of course, they were runners up in 5A Division II 2 years in a row, and one game went down to the very last minute, and not so much last year, but that team's been loaded, and stocked. It is stocked with Division I players on that Irmo roster. Yeah. South Point is right ahead of them in the poll. I'm looking at right here. A couple of people. So South Point, Irmo, 2 teams. Who else you got on your mind, Thomas? 4A.
Well, when you look at it, I mean, just those top 4 teams. I mean, you talk about Irmo. They have a quarterback who is his first year as a full starter, but he's a guy who really made an impact. And particularly if you saw the second half against Dutch Fork, Britton Davis, he was a guy who wasn't afraid of the moment. One of the big things for them was as they said, Christmas came early for them when they picked up the running back from out of Cape Fear, Ty Phillips. This was a kid who rushed for 900 yards in 7 games last year. He's someone who's really going to help with the loss of both Malik and also the Miller and Corey Miller to Dutch Fork. He's one of the guys that are going to help sort of fill that offensive board on the ground. But they also have at wide receiver guys like Ethan Singletary and also J.E. Edie who have really made that adjustment. But of course, when you talk about Irmo, you got to talk inside with them. First on the offensive line with Nate Carson, who's headed to Carolina, blocking the way there. And then you also have on the defensive side, Jaden Broughton, who's headed to Miami.
Yeah.
You also have Jamar Grissett in the secondary. So this is a team, for the most part. I mean, these are the type of teams that there's a reason why Aaron Brand has gone 37-5 the last 3 years. And the thing about it is those 5 losses have all come to 3 teams. And he only has to worry about playing possibly one of them this year, which would be possibly a South Lawrence, who's now coached by another former Dutch Fork coach, assistant coach, and Scott Braswell. Yeah. I mean, you got to imagine he's someone who's going to probably do a good job. But then, of course, when it comes to the upstate, it comes down to also Gaffney. I mean, whenever you mentioned Gaffney, they're going to somehow find their way into that mix when it comes to. So those are really the top 4 I have there.
All right, good stuff. Tyler Cupp, 4A. I know you got some people in your area. You mentioned Indian Land earlier, and you got some people in your area to watch in 4A. But what are your thoughts other than the obvious teams? What do you think might happen in 4A?
Well, I talked about all those defending champions and seeing if they can repeat. I did not mention South Point. South Point's in that mix. Had a lot of guys come into South Point from the Charlotte area. They're going to have a very, very strong club with the returners that they already had from a state championship club. I don't talk about Gaffney until the temperature drops. That's how they talk about him up here in Football City, USA. Until the temperature drops, Gaffney is not a contender yet. So I'll skip over them. But Matt Casilla, the quarterback of Indian Land, is going to be one of the better stories in terms of finding out how good of a player he is. He's getting some Power 4 looks. Very, very strong quarterback. Very poised, very composed young man. I think he's going to have a good season. And a team that I think could be very strong. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder because of the way they lost last year. That is T.L. Hanna out of the Upstate. T.L. Hanna brought a lot in from the year prior, and the way they lost to Indian Land in the playoffs. I think they're well coached. I've seen them a couple times in the playoffs over the years. That's a tough place to play, and if they can get home field advantage somehow in 4A, watch out for them. I'll give a couple of shout outs to some teams that'll be interesting to see what they do this year. First year club, Lake Wiley, the Chargers. Coach Nick Pelham, who used to be at White Knoll. I'm hearing really good things out of that camp. And one of the best play callers for my money in the state of South Carolina. He was at Hillcrest. He's now at Clover. Bennett Swigert. I think he's a tremendous play caller. Very curious to see. Yeah, that's right. Very curious to see what he does with the Blue Eagles this year.
Former South Carolina State offensive coordinator.
Sure, absolutely. Spend time. Yes, Swigert has paid his dues under that Buddy Pugh staff and all that. So good stuff. Way to come strong with it, Tyler and Thomas. That's good stuff in the 4A division. Let's go to Chris Deering. 4A, Chris, what's on your mind?
Before we get to this, Stacy, I have to interject here. Bennett Swigert and Paige Walford, I was coached by their fathers at Berkeley High School.
Whoa.
Well, so
Berkeley, shout out once again.
So knowing those kids since they were kids, man. So yeah, glad to see both of them doing really well. Tyler, I'm gonna piggyback on your Indian Land comment for a minute, and want to talk about the Curry brothers. A couple transfers in from out of state. They're the sons of former NFL player Aaron Curry.
Oh, really?
You remember that name? Seattle Seahawks defensive back.
Yeah.
I've heard outstanding things about those two kids so far. As far as they might be two of the better players in South Carolina we don't know about yet. So that's something to keep a watch on Indian Land. Love the Irmo team. Thomas, the guy you didn't mention, Tyrone Jennings, another defensive lineman. I've told everybody if he was 6'4", 6'5", he would have all the Power 4 schools knocking on his door, but unfortunately, he's about 6'1", and they don't knock the door down for 6'1" defensive tackles. But he's really talented. He's going to be a gem for anybody who recruits him, so looking forward to that one. And another team we haven't mentioned yet is Westside. Bear Woods, the quarterback, Cutter Woods' younger brother, one of the best names in the state. Bear Woods is he's going to be really good, I think, for Westside. So I'm looking forward to those teams having a really good year. Again, I have South Point number one. I think till somebody beats the champ, you got to stay the champ, and that's the way I was looking at it there. And a team that might surprise people that have a lot of returners back, Hilton Head. They had a really good season last year. They made a run in the playoffs. They returned almost their entire team. So don't count out Hilton Head down there from the beach area.
One of my favorite places too, by the way. I know Lou and sometimes Chris, I think you've done it too. Y'all pick at me about my 6 degrees of separation. I know a lot of people, but I got a story for Irmo. The Grisette kid, his mom, Tracy, is from Cheraw. You know, I'm a Chesterfield guy. That's our rival. She was like my little sister, though. His mom, Tracy, and I were so close that when I first got my driver's license, Chesterfield, I went to Cheraw and rode around and showed off my car to all the people that my license to all the people who were younger than me in Cheraw that didn't have a license yet. She was one of the people. I was getting in the car and go to McDonald's with me. But Tracy, shout out to mom, Tracy, and her husband, raised an outstanding young man. He plays basketball at Irmo as well. But so the Grisette kid at Irmo is one of my 6 degrees of separation, Stacy Huff kids. So he's already
you have them all over the state.
Yes, he's committed to Liberty. I think he may be committed to Liberty. It's one of the schools in Virginia. He's already got him a look already. He's already committed. So yeah, that's one of those things. And when you guys mentioned that 4A, Irmo dropping down is not good for the rest of the 4A. Because, we know they were loaded, and that's a team that could compete on any level. They could compete on the 5A level as well. So with that in mind, we can now go to our 3A. And, on our airwaves, this is a team that we always seem to have a lot on our airwaves. Camden pops up when you go to the 3A side of things. But the team that's been running things is Oceanside Collegiate. I think Tyler talked about the quarterback earlier. We began with Thomas Grant again, but we got Oceanside and Camden right there at the top of the team that was running 3A before Oceanside did their run. It was D.W. Daniel. They're sitting there in third place on the poll I'm looking at right here. So talk about those top tier teams in 3A going into the season, Thomas.
Well, of course, with Oceanside, you have to talk about Aiden, the quarterback. I mean, it seems like he's basically made Oliver C. Dawson Stadium his own playground because it seems like every year he's there. I mean, he's just automatic. And then for the rich getting richer, for them to pick up Jaden Murray from Somerville, I mean, you talk about a guy who's already in some places, I think, was like the top ranked senior. Throw the ball to, and you already had a quality receiver there in Anthony Williams. I mean, this is a team that offensively, as long as they're can avoid injury, they're going to be definitely a team that you have to watch, and they're going to be based. It's sort of almost like a gap they've developed right now, similar to what you see in 5A when it comes to Dutch Fork Northwestern. But in this case, it's just OCA by itself. You talk about Camden, Coach Rimp is always, of course, going to find someone offensively who's going to be making plays. I mean, or either someone on defense who's making a lot of tackles. So you can't leave them out of the mix. I'd be interested to see some of the other couple of teams who have also sort of dropping down to 3A. I mean, one team that's close by, like in snapback in 3A is Gilbert. I'd like to see what they've been able to do in terms of being able to play in a position or play in a classification where they can be competitive.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. 3A, I think, probably of the 5 classifications, maybe one of the closest in terms of who can be that other team that can contend with OCA right now.
Yeah, I think we got to head into a little bit of an era with them of a little bit of an Oceanside Collegiate Invitational down in Orangeburg. And Monavian, I hadn't said anything directly about Monavian, but I called his games, I guess 2 or 3 of the years. He makes it look real easy, folks. I mean, he makes it look. He looks like a kid who's like, you know what, this kid is bigger than this. He's a little bit bigger than this level. You can just already see that if he stays healthy, his future is very, very bright. He's a great thrower of the football and a lot of toughness. He's a tough kid, so I've seen him taking a lot of physical play and do well. So I'm very impressed with Monavian. Before we get to Tyler Cupp real quick, I do mention Belton Honey Path is a team that played for the 3A, played for the title last year, I do believe. Or was it 2A? They played for a championship and got beaten, but they're a team that's been around for a while. But Tyler, your thoughts on 3A other than along with Oceanside and Camden, who else is on your mind?
I want to take time out for a moment to thank the sponsors that make it all happen here at Hough Nation Sports. I want to thank Rockamoss and rockamoss.com. Fuel your glow from the sea below. Go to rockamoss.com for all of your CMOS needs. Of course, Alpha Insurance Solutions, LLC, for all your insurance needs. Reach them at 803-427-1327. Then, when it comes to real estate, for all your home buying and selling needs, it is Karen Alexander and her outstanding staff at SM Realty and Associates, LLC. The number 803-445-7185. The email KarenAlexander773@gmail.com. Once again, for all your home buying and selling needs, SM Realty and Associates, LLC. And want to thank GFHRsports.com. And NIL attorney can help you with all your NIL questions and concerns. Go to the website, GFHRsports.com, when it comes to NIL. And now, back to the episode.
Hey, real quick, I got some Midlands guys here. Aiden Monavian, watching him a little bit, just a little bit. He reminds me, do you guys remember W.T. Murden from Airport? You guys remember him?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Reminds me a little bit like he can get on the move, throw on the move.
I forgot about that kid, yes. Yeah.
Always enjoyed that kid and ended up playing at Newberry, too. So obviously Oceanside's the top of the heap here. I will say I got to see Camden last year. It was a great trip back to Zemp Stadium, seeing all my Camden friends and Rimph and all the assistant coaches. Shout out to Coach Matt, Cal McRoy, and Denny Beckley. But I will say Camden going back down to 3A I think is a great thing, and I think it's pretty dangerous for the rest of that classification because they struggled a little bit in 4A with the numbers. Yeah. And I remember calling that Camden game. I think they played Lancaster. And I remember seeing a lot of sophomores and juniors. So they got a lot coming back for the Bulldogs. Yeah. And a team that I did not hear mentioned that I saw last year, and again, another team where I looked at the roster and I saw all these sophomores and juniors. They scrimmaged Rock Hill last night, and that is the Hartsville Red Foxes. They had a quarterback that I thought was incredibly impressive. Deering, I know that with Prep Red Zone SC, you see a lot of quarterbacks in the camps and stuff. I was incredibly impressed with this young man. They always have speed on the edges at Hartsville. They always have like a really strong defensive end there in Hartsville. So I would watch out for the Red Foxes here. If they can find a way to stop some opponents and keep opponents under 35, they've had some struggles defensively, but they've got the pieces on offense. Watch out for Hartsville. I think they could be dangerous.
That's good. That's up my neck of the woods too. That's not right down the road from Chesterfield. So they play it, of course, at Kellytown Stadium. We used to play the Jamboree up there back in the day. We saw Corey. I unfortunately got to see Corey Miller one time, too close at Kellytown Stadium when Jamboree back in the day in Hartsfield. So they make every few years they bubble up, right? Hartsfield, and you good call, Tyler. This could be another one of those years for them. Chris, your thoughts on this 3A division?
Well, first of all, Kellytown's the first stadium I ever got locked inside of.
Please, how did that happen?
There's been more? There's more than one?
You said
There's been more than one, yes. Lexington's been there. I think Lexington's happened twice, and I think they do that on purpose sometimes.
What are you doing? What's going on?
But the man said, "I'll be right back," and then I watched this truck drive off down the road, and I was like, "Man, I think that was my guy right there." And sure enough, I walked around all the gates, and they were all locked up. So I had to break out of Kellytown. So I digress. Sorry, but
That's a good story.
Yeah, Oceanside. They're the beast right there. Jaden Kelly Murray. I've got some intel. He's going to play on both sides of the ball pretty frequently. I think. He's committed to Colorado. They want to see him on both sides of the ball, so I think he's going to do that.
I didn't realize he was Colorado. Okay. I knew he committed from Colorado.
He was a freshman on defense.
Oh, really?
And then, focused more on offense the last 2 years, and now he's going to play both here at Oceanside. Anthony Williams, he's going to North Carolina. They got some other kids, too, skill guys. James O'Connor, the running back. Mm-hmm. Cooper Webb's another receiver to watch. Michael Strickler. He's an athlete that's probably going to play both ways as well. So you got to love that Oceanside team. I like Daniel, another team in the upstate that when I looked at this roster last year, it was all sophomores and juniors, Powdersville. And they don't play in the toughest region. So they did get knocked out in the playoffs last year, but look out for them. Love the Hartsville, talking about them again because that's tradition. I mean, people expect Hartsville to be there, I think. And Camden, Grayson Remp, the quarterback, Coach Remp's son, he's going to be really good. I know I was talking to Coach Remp at one of the combines, and I said, who's going to make your team good? He said, well, if it's not Grayson, we're not going. So he thinks very highly of what his son can do, and he should because he's been really good. This was one of the harder top tens I had to make, Stacy, because outside of what the teams I've named, then it's sort of, I think we take a little bit of a fall off. I did have BHP in there. I had Wren in there. Loris from over in the beach area and Bishop England, I think, has a chance to be really good. They have some transfers and they got a chance to compete in their region and make a little run in the playoffs because maybe outside of Oceanside, the lower state's not as powerful as the upper state.
Good stuff. We heading out of 2A. I know Storm Thermal's already been mentioned, and a familiar name in the poll. Looking at Dillon County, and in the top 2 or 3 in a lot of people's polls. So Thomas Gray, talk about 2A for us briefly, if you would.
Yeah, talking about Dillon, of course. The traditional power, you can say, so to speak, but they're a team that's also going through some changes in terms of their athleticism. I mean, for instance, one their switched wide receiver, Nigel Harrison, is going to be playing at the quarterback position. They're going to be also had a situation where you have they got so DJ Kendall was going to be one of the guys playing on both sides of the football. Then they have a prospect at linebacker in Kelvion Manning, and this was a team that was really solid in their region last year. So you always have to look out with Dillon when they're on the timetable. And then, when you look at the rest of the top 10, of course, Clinton, what they did last year in terms of how did they emerge, But I look at teams like Kilton and Newberry, the key's going to be both of them lost some key players, and particularly Newberry. Keaton Caldwell was like Mr. Touchdown. I mean, he literally was scoring almost every week. He turned around,
And he put on a good show.
Yeah, definitely. And then you look at some of the other teams that are could contend. I think Philip Simmons is someone who you really cannot sleep on. They were a team that were emerging in the Low Country, and then just looking close to home in terms of Midlands, Saluda. I mean, they played in a region that's been pretty tough the last couple of years, and they have some players. They went through a coaching change last year, but they seem like they're a team that's trying to get things back on the up and up.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. And I don't see. Did we cut Batesburg? Leesville is not on. Are they 3 or 2A now?
Class A now.
They better win. Oh, that's why I wonder why I hadn't seen them yet. Okay, forgive me for that. Speaking of, I think Tyler, one of y'all mentioned Strom Thurmond earlier. They're number one to a lot of people there. They had a great story last year, but it was close in the first place votes to poll. I see 7-6 between them and Dillon. So a little bit of, it's got a little bit of mixed feelings there about that. It looks like. Tyler, your thoughts on 2A?
When I talk 2A, I'm going to throw out some coaches' names that I really respect that I think are primed to have some big years. I start with Corey Fountain at Clinton. It seems like every 2-3 years, Clinton is there in the Final Four, in the upper state. Yep. And I just like how he runs a program. It seems like every other year they've got 2 1,400-yard rushers. Yep. Yeah. And they just run downhill against you. I just like the way he runs a program. Yes. New coach at Chester. They've got some returning talent. I think the Cyclones are going to be an interesting team to watch this year. And you look at Saluda. Listen, one of my absolute favorites. Did a great job as a Lexington District AD. Chad Leapart is now going to be an assistant there at Saluda. Talk about one of the better assistants in the state of South Carolina. The guy was a great coach. He was a great coach for a long time.
Hall of Fame level coach. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think he's going to do a great job there for Saluda. Absolutely.
Good stuff. I love that. That's good stuff. I didn't know he was a great guy. I've always had great conversations with Leapart. Good to see him doing what he wants to do, man. That's good stuff. Chris Deering, your thoughts on 2A, and we'll wrap it up after 1A. But what's your thoughts on our final piece of the 2A puzzle here from Chris Deering? What do you have?
So I'm gonna give you one bit of piece of coaching news that I found out last night that I don't think many people know. Walt Wilson, the former R&E coach, Calhoun County, he's at Lower Richland now.
Oh,
he's the defensive line coach, and talking about a guy I really respect and have high thoughts of. It was good to see him last night and have a chance to chat with him. So he's back in the game. He said he's got to keep his foot in it. He wasn't ready to walk away totally. Yeah. So he's the defensive line coach, and his son's still doing well at NC State. So good for Walt Wilson.
I saw him. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I saw him at the track championships. He was still on staff and finished out the year at Northeast, and he said he knew. He had a pretty good idea where his next move would be, but he wouldn't tell me. He said, "You're media. You're gonna go tell everybody." I said, "Probably." So he told me a few people worse at golf than I am, though. So I told him I need him around because I know he's one person I can beat at golf. But go ahead.
Okay. So a couple teams that we've not mentioned yet that I voted in the top 10, and I would have had this team a lot higher if their running back Aiden Gibson wouldn't have reclassified and went to college, gone to Rutgers. Woodruff is going to be right there. I still think they have a lot of talent, but you lose a 2,000-yard back. That's pretty tough, hard to replace. So we'll see what they can do. And I'm a little bit surprised that all of us are really high on Saluda. I thought I had a sneaky, dark horse pick there, but I do like Saluda. They have the quarterback transfer from Lexington, and I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. I think they struggled last year a little bit, but I think they're ready to come back and have a really good season. And then up in the upstate, Mountain View Prep, I think they're going to be a factor again just because they got numbers and got some kids that can make plays. So that's some schools I'm really looking forward to. Good to hear you talk about Clinton, Teacup, because I had them number 2 right behind Strom Thurmond. I think they're going to have a really good year as well.
I think I had them in the championship game, 2 years ago? They played in the championship game?
Yep.
Yeah. And they popped up there. But Yeah, I was going to ask about Mountain View Prep. They're in that talent-rich area up there. Of course, they were put there on purpose because it's talent-rich, of course. But they've done a good job of over the last couple of seasons getting players to with some controversy. But so you never know when they're going to bubble up and get the right blend right there. But so I definitely wanted somebody to mention Mountain View Prep. But I see Marlboro County in the top 10 looking at. They hadn't been super relevant in a while, but they the Fighting Savelle Newtons. We'll see if they put together a little run there from over in that part of the state. Chester, number 9. We mentioned number 4 earlier, and then of course I think Newberry is a team I mentioned. They've been on our airwaves the last 3 years, and they do have a good staff and good talent there as well. So we covered all the good stuff there. Others receiving votes. I see OW, who got off to a great start last year. The schedule might have not been that strong. They got kind of tailed off toward the end of the season. OW is there with new facilities. We'll keep an eye on them. And of course, Southside Christian, a team who they make a little run every few years. It seems like they're now also receiving votes category, if you will. Y'all let's get to 1A, and we got 1A, and I got a bonus question for you after we do 1A. Of we're going to talk portal for a couple of minutes before we sign off. All right, let's go 1A right now, and if you look at the 1A division. Fairfield Central, my guy, meet up there, Demetrius Davis. My shout out to my brother, Dr. J.R. Green, who's a former past superintendent. He's still a big Fairfield Central guy. We were talking recently about that during the summer, and Fairfield Central's they knocked on the door a little bit last year, and they may be ready now. So you got them, Bamberg Earhart, of course, who we know what they did last year. Abbeville 3, the dynastic program. So Thomas, we'll start with you, and those are 3 pretty strong names at the top of things in 1A.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, of course, the fallout when it comes to teams that drop because of the classification. You can add also a 4th team in there as well who emerged last year, Hampton County. This was a program that was created out of a merger. They were able to put things quickly together, and they become a team that I guess in the next few years you're going to be hearing them a lot. But you talk about the top teams. You talk about with Fairfield Central. They return senior quarterback Kamari Jones. He also has one of his favorite targets in Ty's. He has Ty Quarius Shannon. He's a guy who had over 38 receptions for 1,006 yards and 16 touchdowns last year.
Where did he commit to? He's committed, right? Where did he commit to Quarius?
Well, he still looks like he still has some choices. I mean, they've had like Erskine to Citadel, East Tennessee State.
He actually committed to Gardner Webb.
I thought of somebody. Yeah, I think recently, very recently, I think Gardner Webb is what I saw. Okay, go ahead, Thomas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so you took it out a team that averaged over 34 points a game playing in 2A. You're definitely going to be a team that's definitely going to be a factor. But when you look at Bamberg, it all starts with defense. I mean, definitely defense is sort of their calling card, and as long as they're basically. As long as Bamberg has what they have in terms of defensively, they're still going to be the team to beat because it's going to be hard to find any teams that are going to be really scoring a lot of points against them this year. And of course, with Abbeville, with their tradition. So, I mean, right now, when you look at, I mean, it goes 4 deep when it comes to, but you also also include in there Batesburg, Leesville. I mean, they're a team that can show that they can play any type of style of offense you want to have. Now, I mean, they lose 2 of their all-time scoring leaders on offense, but the way that program is set up over the years, that's a program that's able to find new athletes. They're able to play the same defensive style, so it's going to be interesting to see how they fare in Class A.
That's it. The BL, the Twin Cities, if you will. Shout out to my guy, Birch Atley. I got to talk to him last year when we did the game with him. Birch was on the radio call, and we were in the same press box. And the way it's set up over at Batesburg Leesville, the TV was on one end, and Birch was about 10 feet to the left, and we just all going at it at one time in the press box. So good stuff, Thomas. Charlie Cupp, 1A. Who you got? Who you think about, man?
I'll be brief because I don't get to see as much 1A, but you called out my boy, Coach Demetrius Davis, Fairfield Central, one of my absolute favorites. I want to say 2 teams I'm going to have my eye on, and they're in the top 5, but I think it's based on how their years ended and what the talk has been in the offseason. The first is Fairfield Central. If you remember how they lost was, what was it, like a 2-point conversion goal line? Strom Thurmond escaped with the win, then they go on to win state championship. Great story. You bet best believe Coach Davis is going to make that the focal point of like, hey, we need to get back to that game. We proved to ourselves we could get there. I think that's going to be a big thing for the Griffins. And Abbeville, I've heard in the offseason, Abbeville, they graduated a bunch of talent. Well, listen, that's when sometimes teams have their best years, is when they don't really have much to prove, right? They're the young guys. So this could be a team that Jamie Nichols has that maybe kind of surprises some people. Maybe Abbeville's not expected to be as good as they are, and they will be because, as we used to say in 1A, it was the Abbeville Invitational for many years. They may return to form. Another team, I'll just give a shout out to Louisville. Trent Usher does a great job with the Lions. I actually heard an interview with him earlier today. Seems to have a lot of excitement for that team, even though they lost some good players. They lost the Culp brothers over to Rock Hill, but I still think it's going to be a very good club. And you mentioned Savell Newton. He was a Marlboro County Bulldog, but he's a Great Falls Red Devil.
Yes, he is.
He's doing a good job down there at Great Falls. So shout out to Savell.
Good stuff. And I got to stop you right there because you mentioned Trent Usher. I mentioned Corey Miller early in the broadcast. And the team we didn't mention, a team I grew up hating, and it's hard for me to be impartial now because I grew up hating two teams, Sherrall and Pageland. And Central Pageland is sitting right there on this list. I'm looking at number 5. Trent Usher is a Central Pageland product. Yeah. So just it's a central theme going on here. I wonder just the time they bubble up because not every few years, but once a decade they make a run toward a chip, and this could be their time right here. Laying in the weeds right there, number 5 is always athletes in Pageland, and to my chagrin growing up, I always got some dogs over there. So Trent Usher, you mentioned, although he's at Louisville, his alma mater sitting there at 5, right ahead of them in the poll. This poll I'm looking at. So something to keep an eye on right there. Chris Deering, your thoughts on 1A?
I saw Big Bamberg last night over at Lower Richland, and
how do you look?
Yeah, they've not missed a step, man. That defense is good. One kid that I think probably does not get talked about enough is their quarterback, Brian McMillan. He plays safety. I think he's a safety on the college level, but he had an outstanding year last year, and he looks good. Looks to me he got a little bit bigger in the offseason. So I'm looking forward to big things out of him. I will tell you, watching them and Hammond go at it for 20 minutes last night, if anybody gained 5 yards, I'll be very shocked. Both of those defenses were lights out, and Hammond's going to be there. I mean, they got beat by Heathwood last year, but I think they got a good defense. They still got some things to figure out on offense, but
even though Bob Alexander went over to River Bluff, so they lost him, but they still got John Stokes, and of course the kid that's going to Carolina, of course.
Stokes was hurt last night, so he didn't even play.
Yeah.
The Jackson Ross, they couldn't block him, so that was a fun scrimmage to watch if you love defense, and I kept a very close eye on that one. Like I said, Bamberg's got 18 starters back. That's hard. Are they still hungry? That's the question you got for kids. They're 17, 18 years old. They won it all last year. They've heard all season how great they were. They were the only team to go undefeated last year. Are they hungry? I mean, I think that you got to figure that out. But Corey Crosby does a great job. I love talking to him. I talked to him before the scrimmage last night for a good long time, and always, just recently started talking to him, and great guy to talk to. But I love Bamberg Earhart, love Fairfield Central, the Shannon kid, the wide receiver. Like I said, he's committed to Gardner-Webb. I think they have a steal. I think he's bigger than that.
Me too. I think he's one and gone there. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I do too.
Don't be mad at me, Gardner-Webb.
I think I have them in week 2. I think I'm going to see them in week 2 against Chester.
Okay.
So that should be a really good matchup.
Yeah, he was a sophomore a couple years ago. He had a catch that made like our plays of the year.
I believe it. I mean,
he's just a great body control, like a Murph, almost like a Murph.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Some teams that maybe we haven't mentioned yet. Thomas mentioned Hampton County. Cross has been right there on the doorstep the last couple of years. They've lost some firepower. But Rod Wilson, another former South Carolina Gamecock, he's coaching down there and doing a really good job. And I like a team here in the Midlands that, Stacy, you're going to like this one. C.A. Johnson.
Yeah.
you know, that basketball team winning a state championship, I think, has injected something in that school.
It happens like that sometimes, yeah.
And then, you know, they made a run in the playoffs last year. They got to the third round.
Yeah.
I think they knocked off Louisville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Hey, who's coaching over there now?
That's what I was trying to rack my brain to remember.
The guy that was at Lower Richland, he went down to the Low Country Ridgeland. I can see his face.
I'll look it up.
Because Scotty left, right?
Yeah, Scotty's at Brooklyn Casey as the defensive line coach, I think.
Yeah.
Oh God, his name just escapes me. Stacy's gonna get it for us, but I love the athletes at C.A. Johnson.
Oh, Rodney Barr.
Rodney Barr, there you go.
Oh yeah, I like Rodney. Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably got that hammer that he used to have at Lower Richland that he brought out to the sideline every week. But love the talent there. I think they really could do a lot of good things. They got a lot back from that team last year. And like I say, when the basketball team winning it all, that just injects things into the whole student body. And you want to do that. You want to repeat, and you want to be in that class. And I think C.A. Johnson's could be better than a lot of people expect. I know I was talking to Lou last night. He was at the scrimmage with me. We both voted C.A. Johnson in the top 10. They didn't get enough votes to get in, but I think we both feel like they're going to be really good this year.
You know what I'm going to do? This came to me in the moment. This is the first time we've done one of these shows since we lost the former Gamecock and the man who put Chesterfield back on the map they never were before, Steve Taneyhill. I'm going to call that's the Taneyhill effect of what you're talking about, C.A. Johnson, because I saw it in my alma mater. Steve Taneyhill went to Chesterfield. He made it cool to get off the wall, off whatever you were puffing and don't, and it made it the cool kids decide to play sports. Mm-hmm. He started with the football team, and he went to the basketball team, and he just made it cool. It became a cool thing to do. Yeah. And Chesterfield always had, guys the guys I came through with. If the guys who could really ball play, I never would have been a 3-year starter. I'd have been at home on the bench because the best athletes in Chesterfield wasn't going to the 12th grade. They were working in the pulp mill trucks and tobacco and the streets, right? Yeah. Taneyhill made it where if you're going to be cool around here, your masculinity, your manhood, you're going to play ball.
Hey,
so
Taneyhill had more than Milton's running around in Chesterfield, didn't he?
Yeah, Milton's and the Rivers are always going to be out there, but he had the Davises.
Milton and Rivers.
Yeah, he got them. And see, he made it to the point where, and that's what I think C.A. Johnson. That's what's going on C.A. Johnson now. The kids, because what people quiet as kept, that C.A. Johnson basketball team had a very high GPA as well.
Yeah, they did. I mean,
so
love that team.
Shout out to Rob McCray. The whole thing picked up like we're gonna raise the expectations, and I just want to pause there because this is the first time I've done it since Taneyhill has passed away. But that is the Taneyhill effect, and you see it a lot of times at schools. But you invigorate the whole student body. Say, you know what, I'm gonna get out the stands, I'm gonna get off the wall, and I'm gonna go out there and play. And sometimes your best athletes, you need to get them involved in the extracurricular activities. And that's kind of what I'm loving that at C.A. Johnson. That wraps up our 5-1. I'm not going to put y'all on the spot to ask you to pick champions. I think our conversation kind of told you who we like, but I do have one bonus question on the way out the door. The high school transfer portal. Now the four of us know there's always been a little bit of a portal, right? Yeah, we've
a little bit of a portal,
huh?
A little bit of a portal.
There's always been a lot of portal, but now, look. No one's ever portaled like this before. This portal, this is one of the best portal we've ever seen. No one's ever portaled like we're portaling. But yeah.
That's a great Trump impersonation, Stacey.
Hey, you call it the accordion.
Millions and millions of players in the portal.
Yes. It's the best portal that anyone's ever seen in the history of the world. But we know it's always happened. But now we have it's talked about, it's above the table. You get allegedly 1 year, and we'll see people are going to fight that in court too, by the way. Parents have learned that they can fight and they get their way sometimes. So that being said, this is our first official portal, year, and it's already been amended before the season started. So we had seniors. We had to set out 3 games, I think. And then they rescinded that before the season started. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some things going on during the season. It's going to cause some consternation because kids in their senior year, that's the last ride for a scholarship, and parents will do whatever they can to get their kids somewhere. So we'll see. But we'll start with Thomas again and your thoughts on the portal in general and Who do you think use the portal the best to their advantage? Give me a couple of teams. Just keep it brief because we're going to sign off here and let you guys, everybody, enjoy dinner. But your thoughts on the portal, Thomas?
Well, when it comes to the portal, in the end of the day, it's going to just come down to where things go with the high school league. Eventually, when they settle on a permanent commissioner and how they're going to settle everything when it comes to their whole executive committee. Because you can pass any type of rule you want to, but if things are sort of going to be the same problem you have now, it's going to stay the same. But of course, I mean, I'm going to stick with Aaron Brandt's opinion where he said, I guess Rock Hill won the transfer portal. You can make an argument Dutch Fork won the portal as well. So the rich sort of get richer, so to speak.
No doubt, no doubt. Tyler Cupp, your thoughts on the portal, man?
Listen, I'm just going to say this in defense of the Rock Hill folks. They didn't like that line because, players chose to come to play for Leon Boulware because he's a Rock Hill alum. And there were some Rock Hill parents that said, hey, I want to take my kids. Never mind. Anyway, I agree with everything Thomas said. I think it is going to come down to the new commissioner, which I understand they are looking out of state, someone that has experience dealing with the privates and the charters. I think that is going to be a big, big factor in all of this. Somebody that has experience outside this state dealing with the problem that we are having. Because listen, put any cliche in you want. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Things have gotten a little crazy here. And I understand the multiplier, like on paper, in theory, it should work, but it is not working for some teams. And I fear about Gray Collegiate playing some unsafe numbers in Class 5A, and there's other teams and other sports doing the same thing. But I think it's going to come down to a new commissioner, and I think it was the first time we saw when the high school league put out that release I guess it was last week, the first time I've ever seen the word bona fide. In regards to an address, you better have a bona fide address if you're going to have a clean transfer. I don't think I've ever seen that in a release, but hey, here we are.
The crack staff of investigators was a 7-person staff. They're going to go and hunt down your address, I guess.
And I'm going to tell you this real quick, and I'm not going to say the number, but I know from people that the number of transfer requests was so much that it would have been damn near impossible to look at every single request individually and do what they needed to do to get it to an appeals committee to have what we don't have now. And that is they had to go back to the original rule. What is it, Chris? It was from the thing they put out was essentially from the rule from 2 years ago, right? That's what essentially it was. Yeah. So they had to do that because the number of transfer requests they had from across the state. They didn't have a choice.
It's like herding cats. It's like herding cats. There it is.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the genie back in the bottle, putting the toothpaste back in the tube. All that is listen. We out here now. Now we got to figure out.
We outside, Stacy. We outside.
We outside. Flying rolling commando. We got to figure out how we're going to make it work. Chris, your last word on the portal for you guys, man. Your last word. What you think about the portal, Chris?
So, Stacy, I think you and I were texting a couple weeks ago. I still think we could get to week 5, 6, 7 and look up and it's like, and I know that kid was over here now. So it's hard to keep track of. I know just in the last week, the Swansea quarterbacks transferred to Gilbert. So I didn't know that until I think it was Friday, as somebody told me. So there's going to be things that we don't know until we show up at a stadium and see a kid and we say, well, number 3 is not on my roster. And they say, oh, well, he just transferred in 2 weeks ago. So,
especially guys who call, like Tyler calls games, I call games. Joe Cash and I have been talking about this all this. Like, it's going to be really interesting, these roster integrity, if you will.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting because sometimes coaches don't care. They don't update everything. They don't care about everything. And sometimes I wonder, you guys were kid on both. Oh, he's on both teams? He's on both rosters? So, I mean.
You might see that. You're right.
You got to quite delete that. But it's going to be interesting, folks. But all that being said, I want to thank you guys for your time, your expertise, and your wisdom and your experience is most valuable. I respect all you guys. And so many more. I thought 4 was a good number, but so many guys out there to me. I respect all my media brethren, and all of us do a great job. I think trying to keep the folks informed with all the moves and shakes going on. And what I love about the season is what I always say on air, and I say on my radio show. I love what we think we know about the season. And we're talking about people coming in, but what I love even more, we're going to be talking about some new people coming out this season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about watching these young people flourish. And I think we all agree. And I'm always here to uplift our youth, no matter where they come from, what their background, how their parents may act. I love all the kids. I think we all do. And I want to see them put their best foot forward. So here's to a great 2026 season, guys. I'll see you guys out there on the circuit, on the route. And appreciate you sharing some time, man, on Hough Nation Sports Zone sports show here on YouTube. And again, we're trying to get on some other platforms as time goes on. But appreciate all those who tuning in, support the sponsors out there. My man 3 a.m. Media on the production. Chris Deering, Thomas Grant, and Tyler Cupp. I'm Stacey Huff saying thank y'all. See you next time on Hough Nation Sports on YouTube. And 2026, here we go.
All right, boys.
Appreciate
See
y'all.
y'all.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Check out all the shows that's on the YouTube channel, all the interviews. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate all y'all for supporting another episode of Hough Nation Sports Timeout Convos.